All right, folks, good afternoon and welcome to Recovery Live. You all may have joined us previously when this event was sponsored by C4 Innovations, bringing recovery supports to scale, Technical Assistance Center Strategy, or the old Brass Tacks team. And the Brass Tacks project was funded by SAMHSA, and it ended after a 9-year run on September 4th. What didn't end, however, was C4 Innovations' strong commitment to supporting and advancing recovery and recovery support. C4 Innovations is now sponsoring Recovery Live, and we will continue to bring top-tier speakers, interesting and challenging issues, and creative strategies and knowledge that will help peers and non-peers alike in improving the lives of others with information that's really needed by the field to do the very best job possible in delivering recovery supports and services. Now, as I mentioned, C4 Innovations operated the SAMHSA Brass Tacks project for 9 years, from 2011 to 2020, and we at C4 Innovations, or C4 for short, are really committed to advancing recovery, wellness, housing stability for people who are marginalized. We are committed to reducing disparities and achieving equitable outcomes. We engage, support, and partner with service organizations, communities, and systems, and we do that to develop and implement research-based and evidence-based solutions that are person-centered, recovery-oriented, and trauma-informed. You can learn a lot more about the work C4 does by just simply visiting our website at c4innovates.com. And please don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube if you are so inclined. We'd love to have you join us. So Recovery Live events are really interactive. You get to engage directly with our presenters and each other through the live chat box. And the presenters are going to share some of their initial thoughts. And then we're going to come at all of them with some questions that all of you will raise during this event. The audience members are in a listen-only mode, and you can introduce yourself and you can pose questions, share ideas and resource links, or let us know if you're having tech difficulties by just typing them into the chat box. And to access that chat, click the word chat on your screen and that box will pop out. You can resize it a little, click and drag it to the side so it stays up but mostly out of the way of the content. Today's event's going to last approximately 1 hour. It will be recorded. The recording link will be shared with everybody who registered after this event. It will also be available on the C4 YouTube channel listed on the slide. So if, as you are listening to this particular content, you feel your organization might benefit or need technical assistance around this or any other topic, don't hesitate to email us at training@c4innovates.com. And we're happy to discuss your needs. We'll brainstorm strategies and potential solutions, and we'll work together with you to determine the very best technical assistance possible to meet those individual needs. Now, I mentioned earlier that C4 and Recovery Live events work to bring you top-tier experts and speakers to provide input and expertise on a variety of topics. Today is no exception, and we are honestly beyond fortunate to have some really amazing people with us today. And they're going to be talking today about recovery-friendly workplaces. I'm pleased to introduce the presenters for today. First, we have Nyande Thurman, who is the Chief Operating Officer for C4 Innovations. We have Mary Boise, I'm so sorry. And Mary is a recovery-friendly workplace manager with the SOS Recovery Community Organization with Goodwin Community Health. Mary's going to be tag teaming with Samantha, and I'll call her Sam as we move through the rest of this, Lewandowski. And Sam is a recovery-friendly advisor with the New Hampshire Governor's Recovery-Friendly Workplace. And finally, and certainly last but not least at all, we have Ruth Colin-Wagner. Ruth is the Director of Training and Development with the New York Association of Psychiatric Rehabilitation Services, or NIAPRS for short, and Ruth will bring us all home at the end of this presentation. All right, so you've all heard enough from me, and let's get on to what everybody is here for. And with that, I'd like to get this started. I'm going to turn this over to Nyande, and let me just say really quickly, Nyande is going to provide us sort of an opening. Mary and Sam are going to come in, and then Nyande is going to return for just a minute and then we'll go to Ruth. So I wanted to make sure that folks understood the sort of the flow of today's event. So with all of that, Nandi, can you take us away?
Thank you, Stephen. So first, we do want to start with some statistics that we think is helpful for people to hear, because we talk a lot about the kids right now and how they're being affected both physically and mentally by not returning to school. But we're not talking about is how the COVID pandemic affects adults in some of the same ways. So with that, what we want to first do is talk about the CDC mental health, substance use, and suicidal ideation during the pandemic report. And these are just some points from their report. So the first one is, so symptoms of anxiety disorder and depression disorder increased considerably in the United States during the April to June timeframe, and that's compared to the same period in 2019. And when they looked at the respondents, 40.9% of respondents reported at least one adverse mental or behavioral health condition. In addition to that, 30.9% talked about symptoms of anxiety disorder or depressive disorder. As part of that same group, 26.3% said they also had symptoms of a trauma and stressor related disorder related to the pandemic. And 13.3% have started or increased substance use to cope with their stress or emotions related to COVID-19. In addition, the report shows that approximately 1 in 10 have reported that they started or increased substance use because of COVID-19. That the prevalence of symptoms of anxiety disorder was approximately 3 times those reported in the second quarter of 2019. And prevalence of depressive disorder was approximately 4 times that reported in the second quarter of 2019. And so at this point, I will turn it over to Sam and Mary.
Thank you so much, Nandi. We appreciate that. So again, my name is Sam and I'm presenting with Mary today, and Stephen did a great job at intro, so we'll just jump right into it, I think. So a little bit about what we're talking about today. First, we're going to just give you a brief overview of the initiative. And then we're going to focus in specifically on how Recovery Friendly Workplace helps workplaces build their resiliency and also obviously supports recovery. And specifically, we're going to focus on 3 elements. So how the initiative helps workplaces to challenge stigma, build capacity to address substance use disorder in the workplace, and also helps workplaces to attract and retain talent. So a little bit of background about the initiative. So it's led by Governor Sununu. It was launched in March of 2018, and we have seen so much wonderful growth since that time. We now have over 270 workplaces that are participating, many of which are officially designated as recovery-friendly workplaces. And we're incredibly grateful to our partner SOS because they helped get a lot of those workplaces on board, and we'll talk a little bit more about our partnership with them in a minute. Also want to note that it really is an initiative designed to promote health, safety, and wellness for New Hampshire workplaces, employees, and also communities. And more specifically, we do that by empowering workplaces to provide support for employees who are in recovery, maybe those who are seeking or have not yet entered recovery, and also those who are indirectly impacted by substance use disorder, such as if they have a loved one with a substance use disorder, which if you've gone through that situation, you know that it doesn't really feel very indirect, and it can definitely, impact your life a lot. And Mary will be honing in on kind of the stigma piece of the initiative and how we help to challenge that. And then we'll also be discussing how we encourage employee retention and productivity.
Thank you, Sam. That was a really comprehensive background on the program. That was great. So I am going to use this chart, which depicts the Recovery Friendly Workplace program structure to show how different partners really fit into this program. So I'll draw your attention to the left-hand side. Here we go over what the Recovery Friendly Workplace Advisor's role is in the Recovery Friendly Workplace Initiative. So the advisors really work at the state level. They work through the governor's office. They have a wider breadth and depth for the program. They work with all businesses in the state of New Hampshire. and they help with the designation process. They provide businesses with their signed certificate from the governor. They help with developing culture, advancing that culture, maintaining the recovery-friendly workplace culture. They provide a ton of local resources and connect businesses directly to those resources, no matter what area they are in the state. And they have a variety of different trainings that they can facilitate to help with education in the workplace surrounding substance use, recovery, mental health. And then they work closely with the SOS, Recovery Friendly Workplace Coordinators. So SOS is a recovery community organization. And we work closely as a partner in this initiative to take kind of what I like to call a concept of being recovery friendly that the advisors bring to the workplace and really add a layer of teeth and meat into that by providing real tangible resources and support that these organizations can use to really be recovery friendly workplaces. So we provide peer-to-peer supports. We increase the access to recovery meetings for employees. Sometimes we even bring recovery meetings right to the workplace. We provide Narcan to almost all of the businesses that we work with. We do crisis navigation for employers and employees. And we conduct trainings alongside the advisors that really complement each other nicely. We can also assist with connecting and hiring individuals that we work with in our centers into the workplaces that we work with as recovery-friendly workplaces, which is really cool. And what you get as a result of having this really collaborative and cohesive relationship between the statewide recovery-friendly advisors and the more local SOS recovery-friendly workplace coordinators through the recovery community organization is a strong support system that wraps around not only the individual but also the employer and provides such a in-depth variety of supports, whether that be resources, trainings, the peer-to-peer supports, basically anything that an employer could need. They could call Sam or myself and have a whole support system there within minutes. If you want to go to the next slide.
Thank you, Mary. That was such a great overview of our partnership. Now we just wanted to talk a little bit about resilience and kind of framing that up for everybody. So first off, kind of defining resilience. This definition comes from kind of a community development background. That's what my background is in. And they write that community resilience is a measure of the sustained ability of a community to utilize available resources to respond to, withstand, and recover from adverse situations. So with Recovery Friendly Workplace, we're really looking at how do we leverage recovery as an asset, and how do we support people to enter recovery in order to kind of capture and retain their talent. And there is another definition that comes up a lot in community development, which is just that it's the ability to respond to shocks. So you have a problem that comes up, how do you address that? We're going to help you figure that out and give you more ideas and tools. And then the two kind of specific components that we're looking at are capacity building and also talent retention in this presentation.
All right, and so now we're going to jump into addressing stigma. So this is really important to talk about, especially with the Recovery Friendly Workplace Initiative, because addressing the stigma and trying to challenge stigma in the workplaces is really what's going to build resiliency for the whole workplace community, as well as the individual employees that might be impacted. Addressing the stigma really is the first step, if not the most important step, in the Recovery Friendly Workplace Initiative. So addressing the stigma really is what's going to help to understand where an organization is at with their culture and advance that culture to try to challenge, if not help make that stigma kind of disappear. So I can't tell you guys the number of times that we go into a workplace and the first thing that I always kind of want to do is try to get a feel of what level of stigma we might be dealing with in the workplace. It can be that people think that there really isn't any stigma there, or that they recognize that there is, they don't know how to address it. But more often than not, what we tend to hear is that the organization's very open. Anybody is welcome to step forward. They all know that, but there's just nobody that works there that's in recovery, and there's nobody there that's struggling with substance use disorder or has any family members struggling with substance use disorder. It's just not a problem in the workplace. And so what that tells me is that there's definitely fear from the staff to step forward and talk about it, because there's so many people that are impacted by substance use disorder directly and indirectly that it's almost impossible to make that statement that nobody at that workplace is impacted. So kind of the first step we do is try to address this stigma. Then we move forward to gathering information. If you want to click the slide one more time. There we go, one more, sorry. And so we gather the information. A good way of doing this is a survey. So one of our partners actually helped us come up with this survey, and it's just a really great way to collect data and set a baseline of understanding for how comfortable the individual employees are with coming forward, if they feel that the organization is a recovery-friendly workplace. Even questions like, how important do you feel it is to work at a recovery-friendly workplace? If someone says not important, that kind of addresses the stigma right there. And then once we have that baseline of information, we can come in with an educational training component. These trainings really set the stage to lift up that veil a little bit. And when we do that, it's like the floodgates open. A lot of places that we work with, they've never been provided the space to talk about substance use disorder or recovery at their workplace. And so when we allow them that space, everything comes out. And we encourage employees and employers to leave room for that space to continue and those conversations to continue, and to lean into that uncomfortability. Those conversations are difficult. People have different views. People have never talked about it in the workplace. So just allowing not only to acknowledge the stigma and challenge it, but continue to grow and learn by leaving space for that uncomfortability is a really important piece in building resiliency and challenging that stigma.
Next, thank you. So then we just want to talk a little bit about the process and some of the anticipated outcomes of how this all happens, because sometimes we present on Recovery Friendly Workplace and people are like, that's great, I still don't really get it. So if you want to click. So we have a checklist that kind of streamlines the process for our workplaces. So the intent of this is not just to have a bunch of boxes to check off. It's really that we've designed it with key outcomes in mind. So the idea is that if you're able to walk through this checklist, you're going to see the development of these key recovery-friendly outcomes, and you're going to continue to hone your recovery-friendly workplace culture. The process just becomes a little bit less ambiguous. And what we do through partnering with workplaces, especially like Mary said, when we are able to join forces, is that we are able to kind of handle some of that organizational and administrative and kind of strategic piece and help them think through that and motivate them, encourage them, so that they can kind of take all those pieces and really focus on implementation. If you want to click to the next graphic, please. Thank you. So just a little bit more about the checklist. So this is what our workplaces had to do to become designated as a recovery-friendly workplace and then maintain that designation. So it includes submitting a letter of interest, doing a full orientation to the process, making a declaration to their employees stating that we are participating in this initiative, this is what it means to us, this is what you can expect. Then they get that initial recovery-friendly workplace designation, which brings visibility and builds momentum. And then they move kind of a little bit more into the meat of the checklist, which is great when we are then able to partner with places like SOS, local public health networks. It really focuses on getting information and resources out to employees. For example, a lot of people like to do little resource cards, but they can get creative with it. That's something we really encourage, is that people also make this their own within this kind of general framework. We also make sure that they're connected to their local recovery community organizations and kind of know the role of RCOs. And then they need to do some kind of annual training component, and then also review any related policies if they have those. And then we don't really write policy for people, but if they're wanting to revisit that, we can provide tools and resources around that. Some optional components include creating a task force and participating in community-based activities, and also becoming leaders and peers in this space that then connect with other recovery-friendly workplaces. And what we see is when we kind of ease that lift up, then the business can really focus on taking this, running with it, implementing it. And one sign that they're building capacity is that they really start to make it their own. And on the next slide, Mary's going to talk about some examples where workplaces have really made this initiative their own.
Yes, so one of the most important pieces to make sure that this program is successful, or that it has been successful, is to help a business owner, or even if it's an employer in the public sector or even the nonprofit sector, recognize what about their work is important to them, what their mission and vision is, and how we can make this program align with that. So if you want to click again. So these are just some examples of what our workplaces have done and stayed really engaged with the program as a result of kind of making pieces of this program their own. So we work with a local library. They're really into education, verbiage, words. They wanted a say this, not that flyer for more safe language. We helped them make that idea a reality. Another organization that's a coffee shop, more trendy, they didn't want to do a PowerPoint, so we converted our PowerPoint into a trivia event for them, and that was really popular. And then other things just like small resource recovery drawers where there's Narcan, there's resource cards, there's information about mental health, information about accessing treatment, all those kinds of things. And we really want to cultivate these ideas. And if someone comes forward with something that they are really passionate about at their work, we want to pull our program into that and help make ideas like this become a reality, because that's how people really stayed engaged and how we really built capacity for the program. If you want to go to the next slide. And then another really important piece of this program is just how it benefits the employer. So a big piece of this is talent retention. As an employer, you put a lot of effort into training, time, energy, resources into an employee. And through this program, partnering with the Recovery Friendly Advisors at the state level and SOS or other recovery community organizations at a more local level, you really have this wraparound effect. All of these components in this image are things that we provide on a daily basis. So resources, peer-to-peer supports, advocacy, Narcan distribution, and they all kind of wrap around the employee and the employer to kind of ensure that they maintain a higher level of recovery capital, that they stay on their recovery path, whatever that pathway might be. And you can help the employer feel safer and like they want to be involved with a program like this because you build trust with them and they don't feel like they're just losing employees left and right. They have this level of support and understanding, and their employee feels supported as well, which helps build that resiliency. If you want to go to the next slide.
Yeah, so now I wanted to highlight this with a case study from one of our recovery-friendly workplaces, which is GenFoot up in Littleton, New Hampshire. They manufacture Kamek boots. If you want to click and click again. So a little bit about GenFoot. So they became very interested and passionate about this cause because they very sadly lost an employee due to substance use disorder. And at the time, this employer thought that there weren't really any other options other than that. You know, like if the substance use issue is serious, I have to fire this person. Like he didn't really know what else to do. And then he found out about this initiative and was like, oh my gosh, there could have been a different way. And so now he's an incredibly huge advocate for us and speaks beautifully to it and has really done so much to change his culture. And his employees are so aware that it's a supportive workplace. Like I went and did a training up there and was getting feedback about what's going well and what are some things they might want to have be priorities. And they all were like, we know it's a supportive workplace. And that's exactly what we're trying to see. And as a result of kind of doing that culture change, 5 employees have come forward to seek help with the substance use disorder, and he'll actually help them navigate that if they wish. Like they can call 2-on-1 together, or he can help get them connected to maybe a different local resource. They also have a helping hands committee, so employees can go and connect to a peer if they don't want to go to management. Next, please. They also have begun and have been doing some hiring from their local recovery homes. Next. And so 2 of those people are now shift leaders, very trusted employees, like the kind of employee where if you're leaving and you're like, throw them the key and say, you know, you can lock up and shut off the lights. And so that's amazing to see that leadership and that growth that's been able to happen. Next. Like I said, the Helping Hands Committee. Next. And they've seen decreases in things like their light duty days, accidents and injuries, and also their lost days. And so just kind of thinking about, because they know another way and another approach, they can now have employees that can come forward, they can get them connected to supports and then retain that talent in addition to attracting talent, because people know that, hey, this is a supportive workplace. I want to, you know, work for a workplace like that. Next. And then we just wanted to end with sharing some quotes, kind of highlighting employee perspectives. This comes from a survey where we asked, what does it mean to you to be part of a recovery-friendly workplace? And so we have 4 responses. The first one is, it sends the message that we welcome people in recovery. We see a person, not an illness. It's not about what you did, it's about who you are. It means everything to me. I am in recovery myself and have been welcomed with open arms at Headrest in Lebanon, New Hampshire, despite my past. This has meant a second chance for me, and I am so grateful.
This one, I'm proud to work for a recovery-friendly workplace. Every human being deserves support and empathy through recovery. We have to take care of each other. And my personal favorite, it means a lot for me to be a part of a recovery-friendly workplace because I am in recovery myself. The environment is what supports people's recovery, not just the therapy. I believe it also removes the stigma associated with being in recovery because even though we have struggled with addiction in the past, this does not define who we are today. Rather, we are people who can contribute and be productive members of society. And we'll pass it on back over to Nande.
Thank you so much, Mary. And so, as we said, we wanted to come back to some key HR touch points, and you'll notice that with these, there are a lot of things that are already happening in organizations. And so they're not anything new, but there were just a couple of pieces that we wanted to be sure that we brought to your attention to just think about. So we're going to be looking at job postings, interview and onboarding, supervision, performance evaluation, professional development, recognition, feedback, and termination. So I wanted to start off with this because a lot of us don't really think about the fact that our strength lies in our differences and not in our similarities. But that's very true because when you have people that have different types of input, then you definitely don't have that homogenized product or thing that you're trying to do. So the first thing, job posting. A lot of our staff have said that it's specifically because of the wording in our job post that they've come to C4. So when you're doing a job posting, you just want to make sure that the language is very clear and concise and that people understand that you are an organization that support people in recovery and with lived experience. When you're looking at your interview and onboarding process, you want to be sure to train staff on interviewing and how to handle a person interviewing, bringing up their recovery or lived experience. So you might have someone in the interview say, well, you'll see that there's a gap in my resume of 5 years and some things happened. And instead of them feeling kind of awkward talking about that, the staff person that's doing the interviewing can say, we understand that. That's how our organization works. Got it? And keep it moving. And so then that way the person feels comfortable and they really know that you're, walking your talk. And so when you're doing onboarding, you also want to be sure that staff are clearly able to articulate the organization's open and inclusive culture. Again, you want them to be able to talk about how great the organization is, how open the organization is, why they love being there. And so you just want to be sure that they had that opportunity to understand how they might answer that question if someone in the interview asks it. And then again, during the onboarding process, they can really speak to that culture. While you're in interviews, you also may want to have a more senior staff member in the interview, just in case these things come up and it does get a little awkward, or if there are things that might happen during the interview that this senior staff member might want to talk to the other folks that we're interviewing about at a later time. So we'll talk about supervision. And so as we've all said, there are different things that may come up specifically when you're talking about providing additional supports to people in recovery, but you have to be careful because it really is a fine line between being supportive and taking on the role of a professional counselor. And so if your staff aren't professional counselors and they don't have the liability, the insurances that may go along with that, you want to be very careful that you don't possibly get your organization in some type of legal trouble. So again, that's a fine line. There are plenty of supports that you can put in place, but you also want to be sure that you don't become that professional counselor. You want to be sure that the supervisors are ready to support, but they know that if they're not sure about how to handle an issue, that they know who to go to. So whether it's someone in HR, whether it's their immediate supervisor or someone above their supervisor, you just want to be sure that they know who they can go to if they have any questions. And you also want to be sure that your policies allow for flexibility in hours, time away from work, short or extended periods of time. And this is really key because, again, even though the employee may be open about being in recovery, they might not want to say, well, I need, 2 hours to go talk to my counselor, or I need, some time to go in, some sick time to go in for medical issues. And so you just want to be sure that they may have the space to say to their supervisor, hey, I may be off for 2 hours, but I'll make up the work at the end of the day or on the weekend. So again, that just gives them the flexibility that you'll generally have the idea of what may be happening, but they don't necessarily have to go into specifics. So they do have that flexibility of doing things after hours or on the weekends, and that just makes it easier for them. So performance evaluation and professional development. So this is something that's not new. My staff know I say it all the time, that you don't want to have that one time during the year where you're documenting something. You want to be talking throughout the year. And this is really important as well, because you can be sure that you're checking in on a staff member, making sure that they have all the things that they need, all the supports in place. If they're struggling, if you're talking to them on a weekly basis about their performance, about their professional development, they know that you care and that you're providing the supports that they need, rather than just that one formal sit down that a lot of companies have the one time during the year. You also want to be sure that you're taking time to reinforce things that are going well. Unfortunately, a lot of us tend to only bring up the things that are bad and not necessarily when things are going well. So just be sure that you take that time to reinforce things that are going well. And when discussing things that aren't going well, just know your audience. So if you know you may be dealing with a staff member that has high anxiety, for example, you might want to be sure that you start off the conversation with something light, have maybe that heavier piece in the middle, and then end with something light. You also might want to be sure that you aren't getting interrupted. So there's maybe a do not disturb sign on your door if you're having a conversation, so that way, if they're having to process something that you're saying, you really have time to talk and walk through that and not have any interruptions. So recognition. You also want to be sure that you have programs that can easily recognize staff, recognizing each other throughout the year. We actually use something called Bonusly. And that allows you to do all kinds of things, like recognize someone for doing some awesome stuff, the recognitions on their birthday, each year their annual recognition. And speaking of annual recognitions, you also want to be sure that you maybe have a larger program that recognizes milestones. And so C4, we actually had, this is the wonderful part about feedback, we actually had a staff member recovery that said, hey, it's great that we do, our regular recognitions, but we should have some larger ones. And we said, you know what, you're absolutely right. So we decided to do the 5, 10, 15 year. And then another good point was brought up that for people in recovery, it actually is really good for them to have recognitions at a 1 and a 3 year point, because especially if they're new in their recovery, they really want to be able to know that they're doing a good job. And even though no one's necessarily looking for a pat on the back, it really is good to be able to recognize them. And so that takes me into the next one, which is feedback. So you want to make sure you have mechanisms in place to allow for open feedback as well as anonymous feedback. And when you're first getting started, you may not have people that just want to raise their hand and talk about it. So that anonymous feedback opportunity is a great one, but you're doing well when you don't need that anonymous feedback, even though it's there. So you want to get to the point where your staff actually feel very open and having these conversations with you, so that way there's a give and take. You can tell them if something can be done, can't be done, ask more questions. So it's really good if they can just talk to you openly. So unfortunately, there is sometimes a point where you have to deal with termination. And so again, you want to be honest with staff that even though there's maybe supports in place, you're doing as much as you can to accommodate folks in the workplace and helping them if they need to, for example, go out for a hospitalization stay or things along that line. But sometimes things just do not work. And in that case, you want to be sure that you have termination processes in place. So you want to be sure that you're documenting it. You want to be sure that you've talked to them about goals, how they could work to make things better, that you've documented any accommodations that you make for them. Again, because if things don't work out, sometimes it may happen where someone may say that they were discriminated against because your workplace is open and you know about the recovery. And so last but not least, I just wanted to leave you with the fact that your employees are your best advocates. So again, if they can talk about how wonderful the culture is, that's what's going to bring other people and keep employees engaged. Also, you want to share with your employees, think of your organization. You might want to share it on a website or in a podcast or other conversations. And so here is a link that actually will take you to C4's Changing the Conversation. So we actually have a podcast series specifically on recovery at work. And there we have where we're talking about how recovery works in our organization. And Stephen, who will actually talk a little bit about his working at C4 and being in recovery at the end of our presentation piece. He's also one of the folks that are a part of this, as well as some of our other staff. So with that, I will turn it over to you, Ruth.
Thank you so much, Nayanda. I really appreciate it. And you know what? We're going to pivot just a little bit because we've had all these overall organizational and programmatic pieces that we can do and we can engage in to help our staff be resilient. What I'm going to do is pivot into what you can do so that you can help your staff be more resilient. And at the same time, it'll give you some wellness. So let's begin. So this is a definition of mindfulness. And I don't know if you've heard it before. It's from Jon Kabat-Zinn, and it goes, mindfulness means paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. Let's go to the next definition. Now, in our discussion today, we're going to talk about mindful leadership. So this is a definition of mindful leadership from workhuman.com. And they say that mindful leadership means being able to take an honest look at yourself, at ourselves, and for us to lead without ego and being willing to put the interest of others before ourselves. Next slide, please. So that's really a great definition for us to start now really talking about what that means in our day-to-day practice as being leaders of where we're at. And so as a leader in an organization, responsibility just goes with the job, right? Good leaders need to make effective decisions. We need to manage emotions successfully and keep our attention on the big picture. And that's a lot to do. And I read the book Resident Leadership, and I liked it because it highlights the need for mindfulness in order for leaders to be more effective. And I was like, that's great. You know, like leadership is a passion of mine, mindfulness is a passion of mine, and it just worked out. So let's keep going. And they found in that book, Resident Leadership, that the ability to manage our own emotions, but listen to this, and the emotions of others, that's actually a thing. It's called emotional intelligence. And they indicate that is vitally important for an effective leader. And to achieve this, you need to find a way to renew yourself. This is where mindfulness also comes in directly for our own practice. And so renewal for us is a way of optimizing our state of mind so that we're able to work more effectively. So the stress generated through leadership puts our body and our mind on high alert, and it even weakens our capacity to focus and even to be creative. So renewal is a necessary antidote for leadership stress. And one key way science has found is through mindfulness. In addition, neuroscience has shown that, listen to this, it's very interesting, optimistic, hopeful people are naturally in what they call, quote unquote, an approach mode of mind. They approach difficulties as challenges and they see things generally in a very positive light. Other people have a more, quote unquote, avoidant modes of mind, and that's characterized by avoiding difficult situations and denying problems rather than facing them. So mindfulness practice just for 8 weeks really has been shown to move people from the unhelpful avoidant mode to the more helpful and creative and emotionally intelligent approach mode of mind. And that leads to a greater sense of meaning and purpose for us in our lives. It leads to healthier relationships and an ability to really work and to lead effectively. Next slide, please. Yes, that one. Thank you so much. So there's a reference to an article there that was really good. It's called 5 Simple and Compelling Behaviors of Mindful Leaders. And I enjoyed that very much. And I want to share a little bit about that with you. And they say how mindfulness can transform leadership. And there are 5 positive behaviors that we as leaders, mindful leaders, exhibit. By becoming a mindful leader, you enhance your work. And I love this, you enhance, so not just you and your wellness, you enhance the work and wellness of your staff. And that in turn enhances the work and the wellness of the person receiving services. So it's just a beautiful thing. So let's go to number 1. Remain completely focused when people are talking to you. That may seem a little bit elementary, but listen, during meetings, this is a question, do you give your team your full attention? Just think about it. When an employee approaches you with a problem, can you resist the urge to begin solving it right away in your head and instead listen to what they're saying and not, without judgment? So it's just a fact that our minds are full of chatter. Mindfulness actually calls that monkey brain or monkey mind. It's pretty funny, but it's true. Our minds are constantly full of chatter. And the interesting thing is that our minds wander nearly 50% of our waking hours. And so what we want to do is be able to be more mindful of that, to be able to refocus ourselves and really center ourselves. And we've got a choice. We can just sit back and not do anything and surrender to this phenomenon of our minds wandering, or we can train our minds to give our full and complete attention. And it's not that difficult. Let's keep going. Number 2, thoughtful decisions. You make thoughtful decisions. Of course, we're all thinking we're making thoughtful decisions, but a mindful leader takes it a step further. So every decision involves a certain level of bias. That's just an awareness we need to know. Every single one of our decisions has a certain level of bias, of judgment, and of emotion. And so as leaders, we make countless decisions every single day. My question to you, are you making them with your heart or with your head? Now the answer is simple. A mindful leader uses both. So when you pause, mindfulness is really pausing, right? When you pause and think and you're bringing awareness in that moment to your biases and to your judgments and to your emotions, you're really empowering better decisions for yourself as a leader. Better decisions, countless decisions every single day. Okay, and so now let's move to number 3, empower team members. When a team member comes to you with an issue or a challenge, do you question, do you, ask them questions, probe a little bit, but then do you leave them to figure it out on their own, or do you solve it for them? Do you compliment your staff when they make great decisions? Do you use poor decisions as a teaching opportunity? So not every decision they make is going to be all lovey-dovey and wonderful and excellent. And so those are opportunities for teaching, for education, for redirection. But when you do that mindfully, you do that in a very proactive and supportive way for your team member. And then their performance is going to improve because they now feel empowered and unconditionally trusted. And just because you didn't make that decision doesn't mean that is wrong, because there are different answers to different, we all have different responses, right? So it's not who's right, it's really about what's right. So your team will only be as strong as you are. And so mindful leaders give their full attentions, their full presence. They notice employees' strengths and successes, and with their weaknesses, they're more patient. And number 4, you sleep well at night. It may sound simple, but sleep isn't simple all the time. Making sleep a priority may really seem like a small thing, but it cannot be overstated. A good night's sleep allows you to be more mindful during the day, and mindful leaders tend to stop. Remember, that's the mindfulness moment. Mindful leaders tend to stop, slow down, and breathe, even if just for a moment. Sleep will help you start your day with fresh ideas and fresh energy. And if your mind keeps you up at night, that just means you really need to bring in more mindfulness to balance out your days. Continued mindfulness practice really has shown to be very beneficial for sleeping. And then there's number 5, you have regular meditation practice. Our lives are so busy, but meditation is really worth prioritizing. And I'm not talking about 2 hours of yoga. We are so busy that researchers really coined a term for this unique phenomenon. They call it power stress. And I'm like, yes, that's what it is. It's power stress. And it just means we're more susceptible to stress because of the demands of our position, the demands of authority, the inherent loneliness that comes along with being at the top, and that knowing that every single decision we make really affects our staff, which in turn affects the people that they're working with. And so it doesn't have to be 2 hours, but sit for 5 or maximum 20 minutes every single day. That can make a measurable difference in your leadership style. So research has proven that 20 minutes of meditation a day is not time lost, that it's actually time gained. So developing these 5 principles that we just reviewed really does take commitment, and it takes discipline. But most leaders that I know have that in abundance, and I'm sure you do too. Next slide, please. So this is where we explore ourselves as a leader. And I've got a quick exercise that I'd like to do with you. And this is going to be a mindfulness exercise, and you can choose to do it. The questions I'll be asking during this exercise, I actually decided to put it on the slide. So let's just get started. Let's begin by taking a moment to allow your body to settle into a comfortable position. You may close your eyes or keep them slightly open, allowing your spine to lift and your shoulders to soften. Today, we will explore leading with purpose. Begin by taking a full breath in and a long breath out. And I'm now going to ask you a series of questions, but instead of thinking about the questions or coming up with responses, I want you to allow the questions just to sink in, like pebbles being dropped into a still pond. And I want you to be sensitive to any ripples that you notice. 1, as a leader, what is most important to you? What are you aiming to achieve as a leader? Again, as I ask these questions, just notice the thoughts and feelings and images that come to mind for you. What are the values that guide you? And what may be preventing you from living your values every day? Imagine yourself leading with purpose. What does that feel like? So in addition to these 2 questions, there are also 2 journaling prompts that really people have found very helpful. And you can, of course, do that later. Question number 1 for your journal is, the contributions I most want to make in the world are, and 2, some ideas I have for sharing this with others around me are. Try journaling. Now I want to go to the next slide, because my main message to you is that you do not have to do this alone. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. You don't have to do this alone. I actually can help you every single day. I can support you. And what we do at my organization, I have over 130, it might be 140 now, of already recorded mindfulness exercises. I call it Start Your Work Week Mindfully, a weekly NIAPRS 5-minute retreat. Now, this used to be daily, so that's why our library is so full. And so there's everything there for you. There's guided imagery, there's relaxation, there's body scanning, there's everything you could need. And so thank you for allowing me to be here with you today. I'm now going to pass this along to Stephen. Thank you.
Fantastic, Ruth. Thank you so much for that. And Mary and Sam and Nande, just really incredible information. And I'm so grateful. It's been a privilege just to listen to you all share. I know we only have a few minutes left, and I need to. I don't normally do this as a moderator, but I do want to share my own this sort of recovery-friendly workplace experience because I think it touches on essentially everything that has been shared today. So just bear with me if you can. And again, I want to personally thank each of the speakers for their presentations because as a person in long-term recovery, this entire topic, it's really near and dear to my own heart. And um, I, have been employed now for more than 10 years at C4 Innovations. And while I've had literally too many jobs to count in my lifetime, all but 2 of those jobs never went beyond 1 year's tenure, not one. Some of this was due to my mental health challenges that I was self-medicating around. Some of it had to do with my addiction when my self-medication spiraled out of control. But honestly, mostly it was because the jobs I was able to obtain, they weren't really concerned with me as a person. They were concerned with making or selling or inventing some kind of a widget. Now, when I entered recovery, I just will never forget a job posting for an outreach worker, and this was for a homeless services organization that I saw, because initially the position description itself was sort of the standard fare, and it's kind of what you'd expect. But then at the bottom of this posting, and remember, this was like 2005, I think, somewhere around there. But at the bottom of this posting was one sentence, and that sentence said, "People with the lived experience of homelessness are encouraged to apply." Now, I applied for that job and I got that job. And that's the first time I've ever held a job for more than a year. And I held it for 3 years before I transitioned into another position. And that was the first time I'd ever left a job on good terms without being fired. Now, I was in my late 40s, and you know, that job in just one sentence, it launched me into a career that has resulted in an ever-increasing scope of responsibility and leadership I never knew or even believed that I was going to be capable of. And it didn't happen overnight, and it required a lot of hard work from me. But importantly, it also required a lot of hard work for the organization as well. And my tenure at C4 Innovation started slightly differently than with the job posting because I'd been doing some contracted outreach training while I was employed with another organization. But when I was offered full-time employment with C4, every step that was outlined in our presentations today, I went through, from a full set of staff interviews to interviews with the leadership team members, all of that prior to actually getting the full-time employment. I came to C4 in 2009 with some work experience, and much of it was spotty, and much of it was really unrelated to behavioral health work. My organization made a commitment that right then to move forward together with those of us with lived experience. And at that time, there was one other person who was actively disclosing their own lived experience in my organization. Now, over the past decade, I had a lot of learning to do about how to function, perform, and exist within any organization. And many of us in recovery need to learn all these things. My company has taken the time to coach, to mentor, to engage, to train some more, and always with an eye towards how to ensure that I had what I needed to do my job. Now, I'm sort of a pioneer at my organization, and today I have watched as we hired more and more people with lived experience. More than 30% of our staff are people with lived experience now. And because of how I've been treated at C4 Innovations, what my organization has done for and invested in me, I've been able to hold this job for more than 10 years. And that in itself is just amazing. And it's also why, let me tell you, I am fiercely loyal to C4 Innovations. And I am fiercely loyal to my team. And I strive every single day to bring the very best about me to this job because my recovery grows stronger with each new responsibility. And I model my own recovery and most importantly, my employer's faith, trust, and belief in me simply by being present in the work I do for all of you. It's why I'm here as a moderator today for Recovery Live. I'm plastered all over our website. And because of the investment C4 made in me, all of you are able to obtain the benefit of my own lived experience. So I hope my own story inspires all of you to look at those of us in recovery with a new set of eyes. We can, we will, and we want to give you our best. We just need an opportunity to do that. So thank you for letting me share. And let me dive into a little bit of QA. In fact, we're almost at the top of an hour. There was one really important question that I just wanted to pitch out here. And it is around, are there any special accommodations you should make for folks in recovery? And 30 seconds or less, Nayande, Mary, Ruth, Sam, what are you guys thinking?
So quickly from an HR standpoint, I'm sure most people are familiar with American with Disabilities Act. And so that specifically, if folks need certain accommodations around disability, which depending on what may be happening in their recovery, that may apply. But that's the only one that's required. But again, it is, if you're a good employer and you're working with people that have lived experience or are in recovery, you do want to try to make accommodations as best you can. Just be sure that you're treating everyone equally across the board when you're looking at providing those accommodations.
Others, anybody else?
I think that one thing that we do with a lot of the recovery-friendly workplaces that we work with is just working on framing of how they view substance use disorder and recovery. So, a lot of our workplaces now have written into their policies or just have an unwritten policy that if someone needs to attend a meeting or needs to go see their doctor or therapist, something like that, and LADAC, that's the same thing as someone needing to go get a cancer treatment or somebody that, has diabetes and has to go see a specialist or something like that. So that's definitely something that we've worked on a lot with our recovery-friendly workplaces. And I think that people are receptive of that when you do the framing appropriately.
That's fantastic, Mary. Thank you for that. That's really a great point. Sam or Ruth, any final thoughts?
I liked what Mary had to say. I think it's important too to just kind of have multiple touch points in messaging. People might hear your recovery friendly workplace once, but it might take a while for them to really believe it, and just understand that like it is okay to come forward, or just like making sure that they know the process. And like I love outlining it as like different options. Like if you want to go to management, this is what that would look like. If you want to view our policies, here's a link. If you want to connect with our Helping Hands committee, that's an option. And just kind of raising awareness about options and empowering them.
That's awesome. Sam, thank you. And Ruth, I saw you shaking your head no, that I think everybody had covered it. You're on mute.
And then I was thinking, yes, of course I have something to add. And it's all wonderful to have these policies and procedures, but then there's that introspection for administrators and or direct line supervisors and managers to really pay attention to how they're supervising. So it's not all didactic or going down a list or anything like that. It's stylistic. And that's why the mindful leadership is so important, because it allows you to stop and think and then make a decision.
Ruth, thank you. I think that's a perfect way to just put the finishing point on this entire event. I want to thank again, just a massive thank you to Andy, Mary, Sam, and Ruth. This was just fantastic. I'm thrilled. I hope you were, that they were all here with us today. We're definitely thrilled you were all here with us today. Look, we hope you're going to join us in November as well. We're going to talk about reentry and recovery, which begins when an arrest is made. And we'll look at some of the challenges and strategies related to reentry and recovery. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of your workday. Please be aware that a link is going to pop up as soon as this window closes. Please give us your feedback. It takes less than 3 minutes to do that. We do pay attention, and it's why this event is the way it is structured today. Your feedback made that so. Thank you all. I hope you all have a fantastic Thursday, and we look forward to seeing you again next month. It'll be a week earlier because of Thanksgiving, so on the November 19th. Thanks again, folks, and have a fantastic day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you, everybody.